All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the every other Sunday Rooftops of America live stream, the first one for April 2024. Um, Thanks for being here tonight. So let's get caught up. What happened over the last 2 weeks since the last time I chatted with you guys was down in Nashville. We spring braked, and I was able to get out on Wednesday of that little block of time and travel on down to Alabama and go up Chia Mountain again, which brings me to tonight's beer, which I brought back from Alabama. Um, Good People Brewing Company. This is their Snake Handler Double India Pale Ale. It is really nice color. Um, it's not a big old malt bomb like some of them, though it is malt forward, but there's a nice little hot bite to it. It's tasty stuff. If you ever get down to Alabama way and you're inclined for a beer, Good People does good stuff. Um, I've had some of their stuff back when I lived in Tennessee. They could pick some of their stuff up in Nashville and point south. So it's nice to get a can. I haven't had one in a while. So yeah. Um, Hey, Eric, thanks for being here. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. So, Alabama, yeah, that we had a pretty much perfect day for it. Um, I had actually was able to do some drone flying, not as much up on Chia Mountain as I'd hoped. The wind was a little rough on the one point if you take the boardwalk out. Um, so the drone was getting pushed around a little bit, but I had received permission to fly down at Chakalaka um, City Park. Um, and so I was able to get some flying down there. Um, but overall, it was a great day. Colin and I had a full day. We drove down from Nashville. We left, I think we were on the road by 3:45. We got down there. We filmed at Chakalaka um, City Park. We filmed at Horseshoe Bend Military Park further down, and then we filmed at points around Chia Mountain. Um, it was good that we did it in that order too, because when we first were looking at Chia Mountain earlier in the day, there was a lot of clouds still sitting low. But by the time we did get there by the early afternoon, um, it had all been pushed off and beautiful, beautiful day. Not too cold, not too warm, just right. Perfect Alabama spring day. And I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but in this whole time I've been doing this, I've been recognized for it twice. Um, the first time down in Oxford, Alabama, after filming the original Chia Mountain episode. I got recognized by um, a kid in McDonald's down there, which was the weirdest thing. I was probably not the most social at that point because I'd had a big long day. I was exhausted and I just wanted to get some food and get back on the road. It completely caught me off guard. Like I never expected some random person recognizing me. Um, and then I'd gotten recognized again in Tennessee um, at Harpeth Narrows because I'd filmed something there previously, and that one wasn't as surprising. But it happened again by crazy coincidence on Chia Mountain as I was heading. Colin and I were heading out on the boardwalk. A person recognized me, and they had watched the series, and they were on a Southern High Point extravaganza, and it was really it was fun to chat with him. It catches me off guard. Um, I mean, I know people watch this. I've seen the analytics, but it's still one of these things where when I meet somebody in person, I'm just like, oh my God, thank you. Even crazier is they're from Cable, Wisconsin, which is up in the Northwoods, not too terribly far from where I grew up. And then after I connected with the individual on LinkedIn to find out that we know the same people. So that was pretty funny in its own right. Small world, once again. Um, let's see. Citas, Chia, did you camp or walk through the hill to that? We actually, because we were on such a tight time schedule, we didn't camp. We drove down that day, early that morning, and then filmed throughout the morning, a couple different locations, filmed at Chia, and drove out that night. So there was little hiking. We did the boardwalk because I do think, advertising that boardwalk hike, I think it's important for folks that might not be able to do some of the more strenuous hiking. If they're wheelchair bound, or that at least gives them a chance to experience something really cool. And I like to share that. So if I could have, if I had planned for it, camping down there would have been, I think it would have been a nice little bit to camp. So I'd recommend it to anybody else. It's a pretty area. It is a pretty area. So let's see. Who do we all got on here? Pretzel, hey, how you doing? Glad you're here. CTOS, of course, glad you're here too. Um, yeah, even driving from Middle Tennessee down there, that stretch of road on I-65, that's not, I've driven that stretch from Nashville further down to get to like the Gulf Coast, and 65 is not one of my favorite roads. But fortunately, at least the bit of 65 that you're on in that part of Alabama, you get off north of Birmingham before you get to some of the crazy traffic south of Birmingham. Hey, traveling around, man, good to see you. Glad you're here. But yeah, so that was my weird experience on Alabama. Once again, getting recognized in Alabama. Such a strange little thing. But the overall, the shoot went well. I think we got a lot of good stuff. I definitely feel I got a more comprehensive story to tell than the first time. And it's going to be, um, I think it'll be cool. I did follow up. I can't remember who mentioned it last call, but I did find the X marks the spot in the tower. So thanks for that. Yeah, Eric, thank you. Yes, I did. Right at the base of the stairs. We found it. In fact, I think we got a pretty good shot of it. So at least I'm hoping that's the spot. But yeah, if I would once again though, if you get down there, um, plenty of cool stuff to see around there with the waterfalls and that. But I will put in a plug to go a little bit further down. Um, go a little bit further down and go see Horseshoe Bend Military Park. It is a really cool historical spot with some a significant event that really does reshape that part of the U.S. Um, okay, let's see what we got. What's a good airport to go to for Humphreys? We always flew into Phoenix. Just fly into Phoenix, drive up. I can't remember the interstate. It's a pretty straightforward drive. Um, I suppose if you wanted to go to smaller, I'm sure you could find something in Prescott. Um, I will say that the last time I literally did that crazy drive from Salt Lake City, and I would not advise that unless you've got time, you want to see some great country, go for it. But that is a long, long haul. because Western states are big. Um, but Phoenix was always really straightforward. You just fly in there. If you're renting a car, it's easy. And then just head north. Um, and it's one of the cool things about that particular drive from Phoenix to Flagstaff is being able to see the change in um, the environment, change in geology, the change in the geography as you move and you start grabbing that elevation. Um, I always get the name of the escarpment wrong. It starts with an M. I have friends out there that I got to call again before I do the voiceover for Arizona to remind me how to say it. I'd like to say I want to say it's the Mogollon, but it is definitely not the correct pronunciation. Um, so, but that's a cool drive. And if you can pop off on that drive and get into Sedona and then drive up the canyon, I think it's Oak Creek Canyon. That is really cool. You'll spend a little more time, but you'll see some amazingly beautiful things. How long of a drive from Phoenix to Humphreys? I couldn't honestly tell you because I've never driven it straight. We've always stopped at places along the way, both heading up there, heading back. So for me, it was 4 to 5 hours, but that's not a direct drive. That's literally us stopping to film stuff or, fly the drone or, um, get food or check things out. So depends, you know, I can't answer that question straight through what it would take. I would assume shouldn't be too terrible. Maybe 2.5 hours, three. Um, yeah. Okay, Stephen. Hey, glad you're here. I checked the High Pointers website today, and they said that the owners of Charles Mount are selling their property, and it may not be open this year. Yeah. So that is huge. It is currently under contract for a cool 3.8 million. I think it was listed. Maybe they dropped it, but it's definitely over 3 million. Like, so that is a big bit of information for folks. I do know that the High Pointers Association and the High Pointers Foundation, both those entities are currently in conversations both with the Wables, who do own it and are selling, and the prospective buyers, um, to see if they can come to some arrangement. Um, we don't want another Henry Richardson event like there was in Rhode Island in the 80s, 90s. So, yeah, if you've got plans for Charles Mound, um, I would say they're gonna end up being scrubbed probably this year, or perhaps the tail end of the summer they might be back on schedule. But it, yeah, so it's there's a lot going on there. Um, so we'll see. Hopefully, the best case scenario is potentially more open days for folks. The worst case scenario is, hey, it's their property and they close it off. That would really, really suck. But I'm really thinking, because when it was listed in the original listing, the Wavels definitely made sure that people were aware of what this place is. So I don't know anything about the prospective buyers. I have no insight in that. I just know conversations are ongoing. So bear with them. Patience, of course, as this all gets worked out. So um, let's see. Yeah, you probably could fly into Flagstaff. I just always flew into Phoenix. And there's reasons. I have friends that live in Phoenix, so I usually would marry up seeing them. But for me, the flights to Phoenix were always cheaper, and the drive is for me made more sense because I wanted to get stuff for production. So, um, but however it works for you to your advantage, I would give it a go. So, yeah. So the thing is you're not that 3.8 isn't just for. There's a farm. I mean, that's the thing. There's more property than just the high point, I believe. So, um, I can't remember the acreage for sale, but maybe it didn't. I didn't look at it. I just looked at the price point, and my dreams went up in smoke. So, um, what was I talking about before? Okay, yeah. So, finish up my Alabama stories. Um, like I said, really good day. Met a lot of good folks down on the Alabama High Point. Had some great conversations. Had a beautiful day, beautiful views. I think Cetos, you said, did you check the overview? Which one? The one out on the boardwalk or the one down by the restaurant area? Went to both. Got some good stuff in both locations. Great view of looking to the west from the boardwalk one. Didn't make it to Pulpit Rock. We were already running late by the time, so that got scrubbed. Um, are there any multimillionaire high pointers? Probably. Uh, I would say this: if there's a high point um, that I would be concerned about, I'd also be concerned about that Indiana one. So I believe the people that own that are getting a little up there in age as well. So um, yeah, Polar Rock has been. I've missed it twice now, and I have need to get. I will be going back to Chia Mountain a fourth time to eventually make that hike out there. But we wrapped around 4:30, and since it's about 3.5 4 hour drive, depending on traffic, and because we were up so crazy, we'd already been up since 3. We just decided to, you know what, it'd be great, but we don't have the time nor the energy, and we need to get back. So, which is the joy of, part of looking at it is like, hey, if you would have camped, you could have probably done that. So, always that option for folks. Um, in the other news, I found out that, um, so I think I mentioned it. I won't be doing the convention this year. I was tossing around the idea, but Mount Whitney is going to move that, uh, bump that to, hopefully convention next year, because Mount Whitney is July 30th. And the fun thing is, we have an overnight. I was mistaken. I thought we only had a day. We do not. We have an overnight. So we are going to step off July 30th, hike up to trail camp, 12,000 feet, um, rack out there, do the summit next day, and then come back. That is the token plan. So July 30th, 31st will be Mount Whitney. Really excited about that. And I think um, it will be epic. I'm really looking forward to Whitney. Been doing some research, writing the script. Like I said, I had an outline, but there's so much more I want to do. I think my problem with Whitney is going to be too much, which isn't a bad thing to do. It's always easier to edit down than to edit up. Um, so I'm excited about that, and because I'm excited about that, training is, well, it kicked off, and today was my first sort of official hike on the long road to Whitney. Trying out new boots, trying out new poles. Did 4 quick miles over at Valley Forge, which I think Valley Forge Military Historical Park is going to become my George Washington would be proud or Baron von Steuben would be proud. It's going to become my training area to prepare for Whitney. It's convenient, it's close, it's got miles and miles of trails. And yes, I'm going to want to get more vertical in that, but for something that's just right, literally a mile from my house, it's going to be the place where I'm going to do a bulk of my training is going to be on Valley Forge. Mount Joy and Mount Misery are going to become my best friends. So, yeah, 99 switchbacks are rough. Um, it's like Jay-Z said, got 99 problems and switchbacks are all of them. So, granted, that's a bit of a paraphrase, but still. So, going forward, I will be updating folks on training, what I'm doing to prepare for it. I think there's a video in there somewhere. I've never really shared that before. I think I've shared it in conversations or on the live stream, but I think I'm going to do more this time around to share the prep for Whitney. There'll probably be more interest in something like that, I hope. Maybe not from this group, but for other folks that are stumbling across the channel. So we're doing the standard route, Stephen. We're just doing the out of the portal and up. So no mountaineer route, just the standard. Just the standard. Still 22 miles. So that brings me up to another thing that I have sort of settled on for this year is what are my definitive summer high pointing plans? Excuse me. And I think I actually have them sort of locked in. So I was originally tossing the idea of doing New York in May, but I think it's actually going to slip to the beginning of June. So Mount Marcy, it's going to basically, I'm going to use it as my shakedown hike for Whitney with gear. So I'm in the hunt for a new pack. If you guys have recommendations for 1 or 2, maybe 3-day overnight packs, I will be gladly take any recommendations you have. My friend Curtis is really keen on Gregory's, so I've been looking at those. He's had some great experiences, not only with the pack itself, but also their customer service. So I am interested in that element too. So quality gear is important, and if there's good quality support of that gear, I would love to know what you guys are using, what you guys are comfortable with. Some of you long haulers, be curious on your thoughts. It's been a long, long time since I actually bought a dedicated multi-day backpacking pack, not a camera bag that also can work as a backpack. So I'm in the market for that. So let's see. Would a big bag of trail mix be good enough for hiking Marcy in terms of food? I don't know. When it comes to food and calorie intake, it's very subjective. It's just like hydration in a way. What is your body comfortable with? What have you trained with? So for me, I like my comfort food is always a Snickers bar. No matter how bad it gets, I can always put down a Snickers bar. So that's good to know for me. But that doesn't work for everybody. I like Cliff Bars. I've always sort of liked them. There are particular flavors I like. I like a little bit of trail mix, but not definitely different than what some people would use. But it really depends what you're comfortable with, what your body's comfortable with for your calorie intake. What do you know that when you're getting tired and pushed to the limit and your body starts not wanting to take in calories, what can you push? What do you know you're going to be able to consume? What do you know you're going to be able to eat? What do you know you're going to be able to drink? So that means getting out there, doing those hikes, and just, learning, knowing what you can do. And it changes over time. Like, um, there used to be the Lara bars that I loved, and I don't anymore. But it really depends on, trial and error a little bit, but what you're used to hiking it. So if that is something that works for you, then it might be perfect for that 14-mile out and back. Um, but it might not work for me as well. So, of course, people got recommendations, throw them in the chat. Um, and Pretzel, if you're looking, they might have something. So, hope to do more this summer as well. That's awesome. Thanks for being here, Bill. I appreciate seeing you. ULA circuit, top back on the PCT for the last 2 years, 2 pounds, 65 liters. Oh, nice. Thanks for that recommendation, Stephen. I'll check that one out. That could very well be an answer. I'm willing to spend a decent amount of money for quality gear. Um, I am not afraid of putting um, money towards something that's going to last for a long time, making that initial investment up front. So, yeah, to finish out the summer. So, New York, I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be sort of a precursor for Whitney, the shakedown of shakedown, so to speak. And then after Whitney, probably about 2 weeks after Whitney, head up to Maine and do Katahdin. And I've right now got an invitation out to one of my best friends, it's funny, like in February, Matt and I have been hanging out for 30 years, ever since we were sitting on the bench outside the S1 shop in Marine Corps Air Station Vatema, Miles 36 in Okinawa, Japan. We struck up a conversation, and there's no looking. There's been no looking back ever since. Matt's actually helped film a couple things for Rooftops. He helped film the updated Wisconsin episode. He helped film the original Illinois episode. So I and he's originally a New England boy from Connecticut, and I'm hoping that he can join me on the trip up to Maine. I think it'd be a fun way to celebrate 30 years of a friendship going up the top of a mountain. So, Eric, food for me. I digest white rice and chicken breast well. That's my go-to for the day before. And oats and simple sugars the day of. Yeah. Um, I know, and like I said, everybody's different on that. Um, I know what I can do, what works well for me. My bigger challenge isn't necessarily calorie intake. It's once I get into the thick of it, is actually continuing to push fluids on a consistent and regular basis. So for me, that's always been the struggle. Um, I come back with too much fluid sometimes in my the one name for it just walked right out of my bladders in my camelback or in the backpack itself. So um, that's something I want to work on for Whitney this year, is actually better water consumption. So, and Steven, Spring Energy Gels and Cliff Shot Block Energy Chews for long efforts. Easy on the stomach and easy to consume while you're on the move. I've had good success with the Cliff Shot Block Energy Chews, the caffeinated ones. So those have sat easy for me as well. Though I will predicate that with the fact that if I'm trying, if it's 3/4 of the hike is through, I have a harder time trying to get them down. So, oh, and yeah, Pedialyte. Can't go wrong with that. Electrolytes are your friend. It's what plants crave. And I hope that made somebody laugh. So, and of course, once you finish with the hike, I enjoy a nice, tasty beer. So, but yeah, so that is the big three: is New York, Whitney, and Maine. What's going to be really interesting is all of them are going to be. I'm going to treat them all. I'm going to do overnights probably on all of them, and it'll be slightly different for some of the series as we get more and more into that, because I feel, with the exception of Hood and Rainier, maybe, but and Idaho, but there are others, the Wyoming, Montana stuff. Those will be, overnights on the trail as well. So, but if we walk out of the summer, if I walk out with 43, it'll be a huge success. And along with that, reshoots that I'm planning for this summer are, right now, I'm looking at reshooting Kentucky for sure. I've wanted to reshoot that one for a while. I do wish it was a prettier play or a prettier high point, but the history there is rich. So I will definitely be looking forward to getting back to Harlan County and digging a little deeper in some of the history and telling a more rich story. And, throwing the drone in there and hopefully capturing a little more of that beauty of that environment. It's, like I have mentioned it before, ridiculously pretty area, wild, crazy history. Let's see. Other reshoots going to be potentially West Virginia, but more likely Ohio first. And then, depending on how the season wraps up in October, I may try to get out to Denver and either refilm Kansas or Nebraska. Of the two, Nebraska has the easier story, has the easier script to rewrite, has the it would be easier to redo that than Kansas, but both need some TLC. So let's see. After this trip, almost all of mine left are going to be Western high points. Yeah, I'm down to just New Marcy and Katahdin here in the east. Bill, I like a Subway meatball sub at Summits. Don't know why. Don't know how healthy or appropriate, but I like that as a reward. Though probably a bit so much. Hey, I will confess, I do like a Subway meatball sub. Um, there is something about it that, well, story time with Sky right now. Um, I grew up in this small little rural town, and when the Subway came, it was a huge deal. And, that Subway meatball sub was an instant winner for me. And so it always sort of takes me back to high school, hanging out with friends. Yeah, there's something about it. I've never enjoyed one on the Summit. Um, Normally, my treat on the Summit is normally a little bit of candy. Um, Whether it's Sour Patch Kids, are always been a favorite, um, or Sweet Tarts, um, or on some a beer. So, uh, yeah, so it's I would I will know it's you, Bill, if I smell the whiff of a Subway meatball sub on the Summit. I'll be like, wait a second, Meehan's in the area. Steven, you and Rooftops are becoming so popular, you're going to have to start doing meet and greets. At some point, that's actually something I wanted. One of the reasons I'd like to get to a convention is to meet folks. I do like meeting people. Um, I love talking to folks. Part of the reason the shoot at Alabama took a little longer than it should have is, as Colin would say, Sky kept trying to be everybody's best friend. So I do like, I get excited about the place. I like to talk to people. I like to hear people's adventures and their experiences. Um, it's part of the reason. Um, how many are going to be part of your party for Whitney? Four of us. We got four. So myself, Brett, and Eric, and Amy. Uh, they have been Brett, Eric, and myself have done um, Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, um, Utah. Eric didn't do Utah. No, Brett did though, and Nevada. We've been a pretty constant team. They are my trusted compatriots for the Western Peaks, and Amy's done. Um, Amy did Nevada with us, but Amy has been up Whitney. Her and Brett have been at Whitney a couple times. So I'm the only one out of the group that hasn't been up Whitney. Eric has been up Whitney as well. So it's a good crew, um, and it should make for a good experience. So um, yeah, we're getting out there. The plan is to fly out. More of this will come out as we shake things off for sure. But the plan is out to get out there perhaps Sunday. Um, so I think I'll end up flying into LAX, renting a car, driving out to the Whitney portal. 5.5 hours, whatever it ends up being. Um, and then shooting on Monday in that area and in the Alabama hills because, hey, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I clearly remember so many shows being shot in the Alabama hills that I feel like I will be doing myself a disservice if I do not at least shoot some of Rooftops of America in the Alabama hills. Um, so, and then climb Tuesday to 12,000, and then the next day to the summit and out. So that's the plan. Lone Pine is a cute little lake with its own history. I think that's like, yeah, Lone Pine is actually one of the things I plan on. We're going to end up stopping there on the way out to shoot stuff. So Pretzel, how many you think you'll ever do Agrahan? I sure want to. I sure want to. Agrahan is going to be a much bigger effort and a much bigger crew. Um, Simply to try to drive the cost down a little bit to go out and see if we can recruit in addition to the people that are going to shoot the episode, other people that want to attempt that. So, um, in conversations with, I think, John Mitchler, I think they went with 15, 20 people to bring the cost down. So it made it reasonable. So Agrahan's very much predicated on how many people we can get to go. Um, because the hard part um, is that charter. That charter is expensive. I want to say I would have to get. I don't want to comment because I can't recall the exact figures, but I'd like to say after the flights, it was probably about $2,000 per person, maybe more. I might be lowballing it. So, Yeah, Agrahan strikes me as like the closest we could ever get to like an old school sort of expedition, um, which would be wild. It would be really cool. So, but I mean, you gotta get to Guam, then you gotta get to Saipan, then you gotta sail up the chain. So it's funny when it's the same sort of commitment you would have for like Denali. And it's sort of the same. You're going to spend a lot of money. So the price point behind it is it's an investment. So for me, um, if I could win the lottery right now, my a perfect way to wrap this series up would be to literally do Agrahan and then Denali. Um, so that way, but who knows how it's going to play out? Most likely, Denali will happen before Agrahan. Um, it does sort of have a trail. They've cut one. It is now there is a mark like it's there is a geo marked trail. So for future folks going there, there is a route. That you still got to cut because you're going through the jungle and that stuff grows back fast. But you at least would have a sort of designated route. Solar eclipse tomorrow. Are you watching? Yeah, a little bit, but we're only in the 90% totality or part here. Like we'll get that 90%. So we'll check it out. But um, that actually brought up another fascinating thing. What we did start thinking about is going to Spain in 2026 for the next total solar eclipse because it's cutting right across um, northwestern Spain. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, I saw the one down in Nashville years ago. It was awesome. Walked right out of my house. So this one's not going to be nearly that cool, but it's still something. Um, yeah, the High Point road closed. Yeah, US 40, I believe, between Weskin and I can't remember the other one, which is one of the routes to get there. I believe there's some work going on. So, Sunflower is there. It is. Highway 40 has closed the traffic halfway between Sharon Springs and Weston due to overpass construction over Union Railroad tracks. Hey, David, thanks for joining. Right as we were getting near the glide path for descent, I'm glad to see you here. Hope you're doing well. I would recommend to folks when you do go out into that part of Kansas anyway, that while Google is a nice aid, a good old map is a good thing to have. So I've had I want to say there's somebody in this particular group had quite the experience on Sunflower, but I've heard other folks have going out there with the assumption that it was going to be an easy one to bag, and then never being able to get up some of the dirt roads to get up to the farm, the ranch, to get on Mount Sunflower because it got so muddy and they got stuck. So always, there's always something. Um, just because it looks easy doesn't mean it is. But yeah, so that's sort of where I'm sitting at right now. We've got the training plan is in full gear. Well, I should say full gear. It's started, and next 2 weeks I'll probably talk more about it and what I'm doing. Yeah, Pretzel and I got stuck. Yep. Um, so I will talk more about what I'm planning, how I'm gonna train for Whitney, because that's gonna carry over. So Whitney really is the last of the easy Western ones for me. And um, it's time to start getting back into that discipline um, area. Brett's working on it for Utah. We are we are in active conversations. We do have a first draft. There's still some gaps, but we actually have it. I have seen it. So it is real. Um, and it still looks good. So, yes, Utah will be out before you know it. Though, ironically, the next thing coming out is Michigan, the redo of Michigan that I shot last August. Um, I got, when I was down in Nashville, I stumbled across, I was looking at just footage, and I dove down the rabbit hole and I just started organizing it. And now it's all storyboarded out, and it's a matter of recording voiceover tomorrow. And so I'm like, all right, I'm committed to getting this one out next. So that's on the docket. Utah's still hanging out there. Puerto Rico's still hanging out there. Updated version of Arizona's still hanging out there. Series for the rooftops of the solar system is still hanging out there. And then all the stuff for seeking the signers. There are 3 scripts that are completed that will be shot through this summer. Um, there's no shortage of work. I feel that I'm at this weird spot where I'm like, man, if I was a little bigger and I could justify an editor, maybe it would be good to get one on the payroll, so to speak. But I do not have that luxury just yet. So who knows? Um, I'll keep shamelessly plugging the series though, and hopefully it continues to grow. So on that note, it is 9:17, a little bit longer than normal, but I feel last time we went a little shorter than normal, so it all washes at the end. Steven, good luck with your conditioning hikes. I really appreciate it. And if folks got advice, hey, by all means, throw it in the chat. Send me notes. Like I said, um, like Steven threw that recommendation for the pack. If you guys got recommendations of things you like on packs, let me know. That's awesome. And I will see you guys in 2 weeks. Have a wonderful night. Cheers.